So you may feel maybe a little relaxed or sleepy or calm or in the crown or heart activation. And that's just being in the what I call the Akashic Enlightenment field. So I'm Sherry Mosley, and I am a San Francisco Bay Area native, and I live and work in Sausalito, and I practice shamanic healing, and I also have a background in acupuncture and Asian medicine. Went to school in Berkeley at Acupuncture and Integrative Medicine College. I studied shamanism with the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, which is also based here in the Bay Area. We're very fortunate to have such beautiful things at easy access to us. And my shamanic practice is also connected to a blood lineage within myself that took me a long time to really surrender to and to understand what was happening for me. I'm also a natural-born psychic medium, meaning I've had visitors ever since I was little, not really understanding who they were or what they were asking of me. And, it had me paralyzed for quite a long time in fear because, these things don't come with a handbook of their own. You're kind of in an adventure. So I actually ended up seeing a psychic, and she recommended that I do shamanic training and learning through that route on how to handle the psychic ability that was already taking place, right? So that I could be in alignment with it to use it for its higher purpose rather than being in fear of it. And that practice alone is, an awakening adventure, going through all of that. And once I started getting more of that training and understanding, the beautiful connection that we can have to the spirit world, there's a lot there that we can work with, and we can learn so much from our multidimensional realities through our spirit helpers, through our higher consciousness. And there's just so much that we can do, including ascending to our higher selves and really truly healing. And through going through acupuncture school, I learned a lot more about the healing aspect, because going through that process, we're working more with the body, mind, spirit, but I began to see that there was something else going on. We can do acupuncture and we can take herbs, but then I started asking, well, why is this occurring? What is really underneath all of this? Because there are things that we can mend on a certain level, but then they may keep coming back and keep coming back. And that's when I just, more or less, I had a calling happen, as well as an ego death. I had done my shamanic training. I had done, and other things too. You dabble in a little bit of Reiki and other energy medicine along the path. And be sure, I was in the regular world before this. I was a .com graphic designer, working at Netflix, having fun. But I had this calling that I started to follow in 2007 is when I really started diving into it. And so 2007, and then in 2016, or more like 2014, I started doing A Course in Miracles. I don't know if you're familiar with that channeled text. And it is a very high frequency. You could say it's in the Christ consciousness or ascended master frequency. So it starts to unwind the mind through daily mantras and removing your false perceptions of reality, right? And through doing that and combining that with my shamanic practice, I ended up going through a big awakening that I didn't know that I was going to go through. And it opened up a lot of doors and awareness, including the Akashic Records and Akashic Enlightenment. And through this process, I had, so the mediumship turned into higher beings showing up. So I'll get back to that in terms of how they show up and, the contact that occurs with other beings. But there were angelics that showed up. as well as Ascended Master Jesus. And, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know how many of you are familiar with psychic abilities or not, but it is like, you know, okay, maybe you sense that somebody's sitting behind you. You don't have to turn around to see them there. You just feel and sense that there's some energy presence there. So the same thing with the psychic ability. And it can be a passed on soul, or it can be an angelic ascended master. And eventually, once you get out of the fear, then you're able to have a dialogue. And so this is where the shamanic training is helpful, because it teaches you to be comfortable in the spirit world and dialoguing with the spirits that do show up. And that is really the most important part, because we forget that. You know, we remember when we're walking through here of, oh, hi, how are you? What is your name? You know, why are we connecting? Same thing with these beings. So I would ask the angelics, or more they would tell me, because they had a plan for me. But then you eventually open to the dialogue. And I was being told that I was going to teach Akashic Enlightenment and to do this work. And I was a little overwhelmed at first, but I had some good peers and friends from the training that I had gone through, and it was really helpful. And also having a solid practice to go to, right? So as we go through our awakening process, our ascension process, it's really nice to have a practice that we can use to check in, to receive higher guidance. And it's nice if that practice, you know, it has like a core structure that really holds you, so you don't have to second guess what's coming through. And you want to also make sure that that space is more or less what we call benevolent. That's more of the shamanic term. They look at benevolent or non-benevolent, meaning that there is a being that would have their own free will still to enact. So shamanic journeying brings you to a benevolent space, as well as the Akashic Enlightenment field that we're all in now. And so first I was using Akashic Enlightenment, shamanic journeying, to connect with the spirit world, to understand, well, what are they asking of me, right? And then I would receive guidance, and I wrote all of this down, and this actually ended up being my first book, Akashic Enlightenment. And in that, through those shamanic journeys, I also received downloads of higher consciousness and courses that I teach. And those are also in the Akashic Enlightenment book. And so I was also told, more or less, that there was going to be people going through a process of awakening and that the world was going to change. And I didn't really understand that until 2020. And then I saw, oh, okay, now I understand. Things are really ramping up, and this is needed, this is necessary. You know, there's many souls that are awakening, which means we need as many awakened souls as possible assisting each other, because it can be a scary or overwhelming process. I don't know where each of you is at in your process, but there is more or less an escalator or an elevator or a ladder that you go up for this awakening process. So with the awakening process, there is an activation of your energy bodies that begins to happen. And we're familiar with the energy bodies, the chakras in the body. They're very common, especially here in the Bay Area. But what we don't talk about, unless you're kind of in the advanced studies, are the chakras that are above the head and below the feet. And particularly the ones above the head, this is where a lot of the higher, if not all of the higher consciousness comes in. You know, first it's through the third eye, center mind, then we open up these chakras. And, you know, we can call them chakras, we can call them like lotus flowers that need to open all of the petals to become activated in their full light, to receive higher frequency knowledge, information, energy. And our culture does not really have a ready practice to do this, at least here in the United States. And so as our time is changing, we're getting tools that are easy for us to do that. And Akashic Enlightenment is one of those tools, because once you go into that space, you're working on opening this pillar of all the chakras. And in Christianity, it's called like the Holy Spirit column. It can be called the pillar of light. It can be called the transpersonal chakras. There's many different names, but basically it's all energy. And it's energy that we want to connect with so that we can gracefully go through our ascension process. And what happens is, as we open each of these portals of energy, we become aware of things that we didn't know before. And this means your mind begins to shift. And I call it leveling up or zooming out. These can happen in sudden aha moments, like Eckhart on the bench, instant, right? He just zoomed all the way out and he got it. And then from there, everything just kind of lined up, right? And so that is, the ascension process is raising that consciousness up to that highest level. We can call it our ascended blueprint. We could call it our Christ consciousness. We could call it our Buddha enlightenment. There's multiple names, but there's just this sense of being in pure joy, pure light, because you're not down in the midst of all the things that seem confusing, like fear, shame, guilt, all of these things that, wind into all these little patterns that then become controlling of certain aspects of our lives, what we're doing, why we're choosing to do them, people that we're connecting to, because these energies, they're in here and you're playing out the little script and it's in the energy field, your auric field. And so you're going to attract people and connections that then reflect this to you until you become aware of it and you wake up and go, oh, this is telling me something. It's here for a reason. And then once you get to that part, then you're aware enough to be observing what's happening. And this is where the healing is starting to happen in the ascension process. And so we want to be able to do this gracefully, right? Because sometimes it'll happen in an uncomfortable way or a way that can be shocking if we're ignoring it, right? And so, sometimes it's also just every soul has its own kind of like activated path, right? You could say that's the graceful awakening. But then within that, there's the releasing of the ego and all the patterns. And the ego does not like to go willingly. And we don't hate the ego. It's just that we're retraining it to receive this higher awareness and not to be controlling the game. Because when it controls the game, it's operating from fear, not from love and joy. Right? So that's the major switch that's happening when you go through ascension and healing. Ultimately, it all breaks down to coming to that pure joy state. And we're not talking about being blissed out, but there's just this sense of that Buddha enlightenment where you're just smiling and, oh, okay. I often picture the Dalai Lama, and he's just smiling and it's so sweet and so pure. Like that is it right there. And so as we go through this process, then we're going up this ladder of the chakras. And, one is accessing the Akashic Records. The other one is starting to activate your higher energy body. So your energy field starts to change, meaning that you can hold more high frequency, meaning that you're dropping lower densities, lower mind thoughts, lower frequencies. So some people say it's in the mind, but then it can also affect the DNA. So it could be chicken or the egg, but it can go either way. So you may hear a lot of people talking about DNA activations, light body activations, and this is where, kind of like what we're doing now, I'm kind of getting you on both sides because I'm talking, but I also have the energy field open, right? So it's accelerating it. And so it can happen either way. So some people like to do a lot of energy work, and then this begins to change the consciousness and the DNA frequencies. Or you can do a lot of mind work, and then that changes the frequencies. The tricky thing with the mind work, you could say spiritual teachers that are talking, but I guess more of like psychology, right? Where you're thinking or watching the mind and the patterns and trying to get out of it. That can be a little laborious and take some time. And when you add on the frequencies, it really accelerates the process, which is why, coming back full circle, it's nice to have that practice of, I use Shamanic Journey or Akashic Enlightenment to really get you in there to that highest state, to see it from that place. And then when you're out of that place, you realize, wait, I'm out of that alignment that I saw because I feel that something is off, but I'm not quite sure. But that process then begins to unwind everything. And, it can be, sometimes it's a frustrating process because those around you may not understand. You may also notice that a lot of people maybe leave your life suddenly because you've shifted to a whole new sense of awareness, right? And that's part of it. And I hear this a lot from my clients of, I'm alone, I'm isolated, but that is part of the process when we are going to these higher frequencies, because you've just been in this whole world that was in this frequency. Then you come up here and you're like, there's nobody here. I don't know what happened. And then people start coming in on that frequency. And then you go up another frequency and you keep going and going. And it's just part of the process. And, it is nice to be able to honor the process that is happening when it's happening. There can be a sadness of, I lost so much, right? But that's just the ego, the attachment, the releasing of the attachment, and eventually it becomes more of an adventure. Where you're like, oh, I know this path, I've done this, yeah, okay, we're in this cycle again. Okay, I'm understanding this. And just to be aware of the process, because it's kind of going in peaks and valleys, right? Where maybe there's a lot of chaos and a lot of change, like 2020 is a big wake-up call for everybody. 2021, big shedding for everybody, collective shedding. This year is also a big shedding. I've been getting messages that there's, another 50% of the population is about to go through a large awakening. And it's just going to keep accelerating at this point. So you want to be kind of in a good seat for the ride, have your tools, have your friends and soul family, whether they're incarnated or in the spirit realm, to really, go through that process with you. And along this process, as we're opening these chakras and our energy bodies, we start to meet our interdimensional friends. And you may notice a wide variety amongst people when they talk about extraterrestrials. Some people believe this, some people believe that. It all has to do where you are on that pillar of light. Which chakra are you viewing from, right? And what patterns behind that are still there that are projecting on top of that experience. And that is a huge key piece to any interdimensional being contact, whether it's angelics, ETs, UFOs, ascended masters, elementals. I'm trying to think, what else is there? Anything, passed on beings. So the experience that you're going to have is going to be dependent on your personal awareness and how integrated you are into that. So I do host contact events up in Mount Shasta where we use Akashic Enlightenment for very high frequency benevolent contact, and basically opening to them to teach us, to interact with us, to bring us healing and knowledge. And it's quite a beautiful experience. Some people have upsetting experiences. Maybe extraterrestrials visit you and you feel like it's maybe not so welcomed. The majority of the time, it's part of your wake-up call and your ascension process, right? Sometimes we have to go through these processes of chaos or things being shaken up so that we start to think on a bigger picture. But it can seem scary when you feel like you're alone or the majority of the world isn't on board, although we had UFO disclosure in the midst of chaos last year. A lot of people probably missed it. It just kind of floated by, but it's there, it's happening. And, you know, a lot of people are becoming ready to embrace this, and our culture is. It's an exciting time to be here, to be able to embrace other beings, able to fully manifest themselves physically in our being, in our culture. But it's going to be a sign that we have stepped out of our little selves and are opening up to how great we actually are, right? And we've been hiding this for a long time. And it's really a celebration that we're coming into. I'm getting a little nudge here, I think. So I connect with the Aqualorians, and they are a 9th density extraterrestrial angelic race. So within the extraterrestrial races, I'm not sure where everyone is on this in terms of their knowledge. The Galactic Federation is kind of the most known. It's the Arcturians, Pleiadians, Sirians, and they usually are working with many souls that are coming into a 5th density awareness. You know, everyone starts at 3D level. Rocks and trees and all that are at 2, as well as our pets. You know, our normal function day to day is 3. 4 is you're starting to wake up and say, okay, there's something different going on here. But 5 is when you're coming into that strong love frequency and really understanding unity more. And then you start applying wisdom to that at the 6th density. And then 7th density is where you're seeding and helping the rest of the consciousness of the world come into a new frequency. So when I'm connecting to the 9th density Aqualorians, they are starting to connect with us where our soul DNA keys are being created. So they're going to a very high level of our beingness to help us to shift to a higher level of being very quickly because their frequency is so high. And I met them in Mount Shasta doing contact work, first with just some friends. They were more connected with the Arcturians. And after meeting the Arcturians, the Aqualorians showed up teaching me about their Aqualorian crystalline light healing, which is also a modality that I teach and attune people to. And the reason that I'm talking about them is I feel them coming in wanting to share some energy with you today as part of our transmission. So I think we'll start segueing into a little bit of that, just so I can have a few minutes if you guys have any questions, okay? So is everybody okay with receiving a little energy transmission from the Aqualorians? Okay, great. So we'll just go ahead and settle in. And you may feel them coming to the room. You may feel them here. You may just feel the energy getting heavier. And there's a sense of this energy being very welcoming, very loving. Extending so much love and gratitude that you are here, that you are doing your part of your awareness journey. And they're reminding you that you're not alone. So you may sense some overwhelming emotions kind of rolling through. This is part of the contact. And it just looks like each of them is connecting with you, giving you a little bit of healing and connection in an area that you're requesting it on a deeper level. we're just going deeper into the frequencies. It looks like they're each showing you something very beautiful about yourself, helping you to truly see the true light that you actually are. It looks like they're beginning to clear the path for you to start stepping further forward on your highest aligned path, coming back to your true ascended soul light self. And just settling into that. Now there may be a sense of receiving a message or guidance that may unpack now or later on a good next step for you to take moving forward in your highest path. And they want you to understand that in this energy field, we are connecting to your Akashic records, as well as the Book of Truth, revealing highest divine, multidimensional, universal knowledge, giving you access to all dimensions and realities, offering the swiftest and smoothest awakening potential. And just a little bit of releasing any fears or doubts, worthiness, guilt, shame. Just releasing that. And as that's released, maybe you feel a little lighter, like you can breathe deeper, more at peace or more calm. A sigh of relief. A sense of touching that unity of the universal oneness that you are a part of. And that is where you are from. And they're just beginning to celebrate and joy. And just beginning to help you integrate what they've shared with you. Good, and starting to complete the integration, allowing you to begin to come back to the present space that we are in. Maybe starting to feel your hands and feet, wiggling your fingers and toes. Just coming back to the room and the chair that you're in. You're rubbing your hands together, gently opening your eyes. If you want to write anything down, any message that you heard, that's always nice. Welcome back. Okay, so I will go ahead and open things up to any questions that you may have.
How can you regularly use these practices to heal emotional pain that keeps you from living your best life?
Okay, good question. How to use these practices to heal emotional pain to live your best life. It really just takes a daily practice. So I do have just a beginner's daily meditation to go into your Akashic Enlightenment. You start meditating with it, focusing on certain chakras, or more or less the elixirs of life, the upper dantian, middle, and lower. And these then adjust the rest of the energy bodies. And this is a good place to start. And as you do this daily, you're slowly opening that pillar of light, bringing in the frequencies. And as you bring in the higher frequencies, then you start to become aware of the denser frequencies of pain, right? The emotional pain that would be there. And as they move you gently to that other perspective, you're able to let go of identifying with whatever is causing that pain. The accelerated path would be if I did a reading. And if I do a reading, then I ask them to show what the root cause of that pain is, and then to do a clearing on that, and then whatever next action steps are for you to move through that. And it really depends on the level of the emotional pain, how severe the trauma is, and how long it's been there. I've gone all the way back into in utero with some people in the womb. So it really, the linear time doesn't matter. But we first look at this lifetime, and then we start connecting to other lifetimes on Earth and other dimensional existences. But really a daily practice of connecting with your enlightened self, right? And being in that frequency really just starts to shift everything. And like I said, everyone is at their own pace, so you never want to compare how fast your path is going, because everyone needs to go at the pace that is right for their soul evolution. Yeah, great question. Yeah. Any other questions? How are you guys doing from the energy? A little spaced out and chill? Feeling good? Nice, right? Yeah, I do that for 10 minutes every day. It's a good place to start, right? Instead of rushing.
When you said do for 10 minutes a day, that's the thing with me is trying to focus and settle down and do it. I'm a morning person anyway, but when I get up, I just some reading and do other things in the day to do a workout. For me to settle down and do meditations that we just did, that's hard for me to do by myself.
Oh, so maybe end of day would be a good time for you. Yeah. And that's why, it's an MP3 on my website that you can just listen to. And these are active meditations. So it's different than the ones that focus on breathing and just sitting in silence, because we're focusing in a certain energy field. So you're already, like you felt calm from the energy field that I opened, you will feel that when you open your own Akashic Enlightenment. So you're already a big step right there, right? You just mellow out from the frequencies, And then once you start listening to the guided meditation, it's guiding you to focus on certain areas, right? Like, okay, just focus on your third eye, okay? And the whole thing's been 20 minutes long, right? And you feel the energies coming in. So it's half effort, half just receiving, right? So it's I guess a little easier for those that do have a struggle with doing maybe just the silent sitting meditations. Yeah, so it's really helpful for that. But it is nice to have silent meditations for coming into presence awareness, stillness, right? But sometimes maybe we need to clear out some more frenetic energy from our field first, right? And that's what I've noticed too in doing Chinese medicine. If the body, mind, spirit is not aligned, sometimes there is too much restlessness due to a larger imbalance that it can be hard to just go right in and try to be still, right? So working with the energy is a nice bonus to be able to start to assist with that. Although I like to use Chinese herbs to help people to settle down too, to balance the body, mind, spirit complexes as well. I'm a fan of that. So lots of options. But yeah, just making the space is the first step. Yeah. Yes?
Could you give me your website again?
Oh, my website is my name, SherryMosley.com. So SherryMosley.com. I also have AkashicEnlightenment.com, if that's easier for you to remember. That'll direct. I'm sorry. Yeah, Sherry, SherryMosley.com. And actually, the two books that I wrote, Akashic Enlightenment, so Opening Your Akashic Records, and the Book of Truth, and the follow-up book, The Origins of Humanity. Both of these are channeled books. The first one has the Akashic Enlightenment prayer and activations and practices that you can do. I'm going to go to the bookshop after this talk, and you can get them there, and I'll sign them if you would like. That's a really good place to start, is just reading the book. It is channeled material, so just like this transmission that you received, you will feel the energy activations when you read the book. So it's kind of doing the work for you. So you can just push yourself. They're short books, I swear. They're very direct, concise, making it simple and easy. So not a big time dedication if you don't have the time. I am not doing readings here, but I have a table. It's just right in this hallway right here. And you can sign up on my website. So I do readings online. If anybody, anywhere in the world, I know some of you are traveling here. So yeah, there's no limit on that. And I teach Akashic Enlightenment online, as well as I have tons of events I do online. I have a YouTube channel. Everything is linked on my website, so there's lots and lots of options for your budget, your time, wherever you want to start. So no excuses, right? We all have to take some time to dedicate to ourselves, loving ourselves, and really assisting ourselves to bringing a new earth here, right? That's what we're here to do. It's what we're a part of. It's an amazing experience. So, yeah, thank you all so much for joining. It's been a pleasure. Lovely, lovely, lovely meeting you all. And yeah, I'll be in the bookstore if you have any questions further or want to get a book. All right? The one in the front, yeah. They have both books. Yeah, the Expo bookstore. Yeah, so just through the front doors. If you want to follow me over there, we can go over there now. But let me stop this recording. Yeah, thank you.